Welcome back to Transfers Talk Tennessee Sports. I'm Jules Spear.
And I'm Katie Mack. We've got a lot on the docket for you guys today, but we're going to start out with women's basketball. There's a lot going on for the Lady Vols, even though the season just ended. It's kind of ironic, crazy things are happening, even though season's not necessarily going on.
Right.
So Rakia Jackson is in New York City today for the WNBA draft, which is really, really cool. So we're really, really excited to see where she's going to end up.
Yes, we are.
But in other news, the Lady Vols just got a brand new head coach in Kim Caldwell. So let's talk a little bit about Coach Caldwell.
Yeah, so Coach Caldwell, she started coaching at a D2 level school in Glenville State. She was there for 7 years and was very successful. She won a D2 national championship, and she appeared in 2 Final Fours for them and won it, or got into the Final Four and was very successful there. And then last year she was at Marshall, and she set a program record for 26 wins. And doing that in her first year is just, it's crazy to see. And I think it's crazy to see just because a lot of people talk about the jump from different levels in basketball, and to do that coming from a D2 level to a D1 level is just very impressive.
Yeah, and it definitely speaks, really, really highly of her shift from lower D1 to now the SEC, where it's going to be really, really challenging.
Yes, it's gonna be challenging, but she's been a successful coach.
Mm-hmm.
Winning 7 conference championships in 8 seasons is once again very impressive. She's a winner. She's consistent. She has a chip on her shoulder. And in our team meeting, she talked about she should really be 8 for 8. But that one year she didn't get the conference championship, so it was because of COVID. So.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really, really excited to see what she does and see how that transition ends up working out. But so what do you guys think of her as a person? Because I know you really haven't seen her on the court yet because you're kind of in the off season. But
right.
what do you think of her so far?
She's only been here for a week. I've been in her office multiple times just talking about life, talking about what she has planned for me on the court and my teammates. And I can really say that she's a genuine person. She's caring. She values relationships. Once again, she's a competitive person, and I think the numbers kind of speak to itself with her winning percentage being 88%. I can also speak to her being having a chip on her shoulder. Once again, coming from the different levels and the experiences that she's gone through, I think it has prepared her for this job.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's also really, really young. She's only in her mid-30s,
yes,
right?
She is.
And so I think, it's bringing a totally different vibe, so much energy to the program that, I'm not saying that it was lacking before,
right.
but it's a totally different vibe. And so I think, bringing in somebody that can relate to you guys, that's like a little bit more mentally on your level, I think that that's just something new. It's just something really, really exciting for the program, for sure.
Yeah, it's something new, something fresh. We love Coach Kelly. I want to give her a shout out for even bringing me here to Tennessee and having faith in me. And we appreciate everything she did for this program. And, she was a very successful coach here, but also a very successful player who won national championships.
Absolutely.
So I'm just wishing her success in her future. With Coach Kim Caldwell, I'm excited. She is in her mid-30s. She's energetic, has a lot of energy, and has a lot of confidence, too, coming into this role, which is, can be very hard for coaches, but I think she's ready to take on that challenge.
That's awesome. So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about her coaching philosophy. So how does that differ from what you're used to?
Yeah, so we played pretty fast last year, but she wants to play even faster. You see these stats, they're very impressive, with a lot of them saying 3rd in Division I, 2nd, 1st in Division I. I believe at Marshall she averaged around 85 points per game, which was 3rd in Division I. They averaged 10.6 made threes, which is crazy. Being a person that loves to shoot threes, it's music to my ears. So I'm ready to get accustomed to the offense. She talked about we're going to have growing pains, which is understandable, but once the offense starts clicking, it's going to be dangerous.
That's awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit and actually hear from Coach Caldwell herself and some of the quotes that she had in her press conference. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in her first one, she says she wants to establish our culture. And I think a culture in any program is very important because it just sets the foreground of what you want your program to be. That's how you get recruits. That's how you really establish the values that you really want to look back on and see the program grow. The next one is she wants to make people proud. I mean, who doesn't want to make people proud? You know, we want to make people proud in the sport that we do, but also in our community. And seeing the fans that always come and support us and pack Food City Center, she says she wants to start having sellout crowds. So that's going to be exciting when, you know, people see us winning and that high octane offense, but also a pressure defense. It's just going to create an environment of people that want to come to Food City Center and support us. Her next one is she wants to be the hardest playing team in the country. I think when you have a coach that wants to be the hardest playing team in the country, it makes other teams not want to play you. I mean, just playing out, I wouldn't want to play a team that presses us the whole game.
Right.
I hate going against presses. So me as a person hating that, I know other teams are going to hate that. And then offensively, we want to score. We want to have fun. She's going to give us the freedom to do so and the confidence to do so too, because she has that in herself as a coach and as a person. And the last one that really stood out is we want to really make sure we get back on top. Once again, it speaks for itself. You know, this is a historic program known for national championships and being at the top of the SEC. So wanting to get back up there, win national championships, compete for national championships, get to the Final Four, and win games now, not waiting 2-3 years. Not waiting 2-3 years. She wants to do that right now, starting next year.
Yeah, absolutely. One more quote that I actually pulled from that press conference that I thought was so incredible and so humble of her was making a comment about Pat Summitt and saying, look, I'm never going to be her, but I'm going to try every day to be somebody that she would be proud of. And I think that that's just, it just speaks to her humility, it speaks to her drive, it speaks to her respect for how storied and how amazing this program is in of itself. And so I just really, really like that that's her mindset going into the Lady Vols women's basketball team.
Yeah, I think it's important just, you know, giving credit to Pat Summitt. You know, she was a very successful coach and really set the standard in women's basketball and women's sports all over the nation. So giving her the credit, you know, of what she built here and how she isn't going to be Pat Summitt. No one's going to be Pat Summitt, but what she can do is do as much as she can and do the best that she can to make her proud.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really, really excited to see what Coach Caldwell does for you guys. I mean, she seems to be a really, really exciting hire so far.
Yes, she
So up next, we're actually going to move. Oh, crap. I forgot about this one. My bad. I was going into football and I forgot this slide was here.
It's all good.
I think we still can transition it good.
Who was on camera last?
We could be like, man, look at this photo.
It was on Camp 2 last, so
Did Jewel finish talking on 1?
I believe so. So what I'll do is we'll start with Camp 3
Okay.
and let you intro the
Okay.
photo, and then we'll go to Camp 2.
Sorry about that. That's on me.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's so good. We're doing that cut. Look, was really good. We did bench better.
That
yeah,
was
it was
good.
smoother.
I like that one a lot better.
Okay, so we'll come to Camp 3 in 5, 4, 3, 2.
So Jewel actually put this photo in the slideshow, which I think is a really, really cool photo. Tennessee Goats. But talk to me a little bit about what you like about this.
I mean, you have Coach Heupel, who's the football head coach. You have Coach Rick Barnes, who is the men's basketball head coach. And we know what they all have in common, all three of them, is they love offense. They love to score quick. When you go to Neyland Stadium, they score in a snap. When you go to Food City Center, you see Coach Barnes and the team push in transition and want to score fast and move the ball really well. And then defensively, they want to be right there in your grill and really just get the ball. That's the most important thing of the game, and that's exactly what Coach Kim Caldwell wants to do as well in Food City Center with us.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And kind of staying on the theme of like zooming out a little bit into just like sports as a whole and just Tennessee sports, like I was so excited about the women's NC2A tournament this year. Like it was so special to just watch how much hype and how much energy and how much excitement was around women's basketball this year. And granted, a lot of it was because of these stars, you know, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, people like that. And, you know, the women's national championship game actually got more viewers than the men's championship for the first time in history, which is insane. But I just think it speaks to like all the work that's been done for women's sports lately, and just how, you know, women's sports have like arrived, and there's so much more energy around them. And it's, you know, being a female athlete, having this show being about female athletes, like I think it's so mind-blowing to see that this is happening, you know?
Yeah, I think it's special, and I think it just speaks to what we've done as women athletes, especially when specifically talking about women's basketball athletes. I think NIL has helped from the standpoint of us building our brands and, getting our names out there. But I think it also goes to the viewership and, being on, these platforms like ESPN and different platforms that people love to watch sports on. And when you have that, it just makes it easier for the game to be enjoyed and to be watched. So I can't say that this hasn't been going on. I feel like women's athletes and women basketball athletes have been doing this on a consistent basis. It's just we're finally being put on that platform. We're having special players like the ones you listed make a huge impact on the game, and it's making other people realize what we do, and it's special to see. It's exciting to see. I think it has arrived, it had arrived, and it will continue to arrive.
So awesome. I'm so excited for the future of women's sports, for the little girls that are growing up right now watching women's basketball being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that someday. I can't wait to see what that looks like in 10 to 15 years when those little girls that grew up watching these stars are the next stars, So it's just amazing to watch for sure. So moving on, we're actually going to start talking a little bit about football. Football had their spring game on Saturday. I was not there. Jewel was, though, so she's going to talk a little bit about what she saw.
Yeah, so it was a nice, hot atmosphere. Very, very sunny, but enjoyable to watch. There's 10,000 fans, so you didn't get the whole experience of there being 100,000 fans and it being sold out, only because there were renovations going on in Neyland Stadium. But the game was very exciting. I got to see a lot of young talent from freshmen and other standout players, but I only picked 4 standouts. The first one is Chris Brazel II. He's a transfer wide receiver from Tulane. He was very impressive. He got a 72-yard touchdown pass from another freshman quarterback in Jake Merklinger. So that was very impressive to see, just being a transfer and this being his first game on Neyland Stadium, and seeing the impact that he was able to make.
Absolutely. And speaking of transfers, since the whole theme of our show is transfers, I also wanted to talk a little bit about Dante Thornton Jr. because he's another transfer from Oregon, and he's also a wide receiver. And so I'm really, really excited to see more of him this coming season because he came in last fall and he was out for an injury like basically the whole season after the Missouri game. And so I'm excited to see him and how he ends up working with Chris Brazel Jr. or the second. Excuse me, because they're built very, very similar, but they have different skill sets, and so I think both of them together will just really, really round out that receiving core as well. Yeah,
I agree. And moving on to my second standout is Nico, the quarterback. It was just really interesting to see him go into a starting role, with Joe Milton graduating, and I think he handled it really, really well. He was very mature. He threw a 25-yard touchdown to Chaz Nimrod, another wide receiver, and that speaks to how deep their wide receiver core is. But it was exciting to see the maturity that he had going into the game and how he holds himself and how he's going to be a great leader for the team. My third standout, as I mentioned before, with Chris Brazel, and just that 72-yard touchdown that Jake Merklinger did throw was very impressive. But what stood out to me was how he could move in the pocket. He ran for a 26-yard touchdown.
Wow.
So he was maneuvering, running around people. The quarterbacks couldn't get tackled. They were doing like this one-hand touch thing just to protect them. Obviously we need to protect them. But he was still maneuvering and getting around people, so that was very impressive. And my last standout is a shocker. Another freshman. He's a wide receiver named Mike Matthews. A 5-star recruit out of high school, and he also got, I believe it was a 50-yard touchdown from Gaston Moore, who is another quarterback who did really well in the spring game. But I think it's just exciting to see these young people really do well in the spring game and come out with so much confidence. You would have thought that they were maybe their 3rd years, 4th years, but no, they're in their 1st years, 2nd years. We have some transfers, some true freshmen, and they really made an impact.
Yeah, and I really think it speaks to the balance that Tennessee football has on the team. You know, one of the comments that I wanted to touch on was the linebacker group and how there's actually a 7th-year transfer from BYU,
wow.
Keenan Pilley. And the new linebackers coach, William Inge, he had a lot of really, really positive things to say about Keenan. Just that, you know, his experience and his football knowledge and just the things that he brings to the table. Like, he's been such a positive influence on some of these younger guys. One of the ones that Inge also talked about was Jeremiah Thielander, and just how well he's been doing. But he's saying that it's because, you know, he's got guys like Keenan that have that experience. So I think it's really, really positive that we're seeing, you know, guys that are older doing well, but then also these freshmen that you're mentioning doing well. And I think it really speaks to Coach Inge's philosophy, which is just players coaching players, you know,
right.
Like the players being on the field, like helping out their fellow teammates. And I think it always, you know, means more when it's coming from your teammates who have been there, who have done
yes.
it, who have experienced it, rather than, you know, your coach who you're sitting there and you're like, well, this is just some old guy
right.
telling me what to do, you know?
No, I think, like you said, you know, player-led team is typically stronger than a coach-led team. Obviously, you want to listen to your coach. I'm not saying don't listen to your coach, because you might not play if you don't listen to your coach. But if you're a player-led team, you value what people say. You value the connections that you have with your teammates, and you're willing to go to war with your teammates because you know they have your back and you have their back. So I'm just very excited to see how a player-led team in this Tennessee team can be successful. And if you want to see that, make sure you come out to Neyland Stadium on August 31st, and they do play UT Chattanooga.
So let's talk softball, Zaida. You guys had some big wins over Mississippi State this weekend. You hit a couple dingers yesterday to solidify that win. Tell me a little bit about that.
So obviously Friday we lost. It was actually like one of our worst losses this year. And it was like, I think it was embarrassing, but like we needed that. I feel like we just needed to be humbled a little bit, and we did. So after that we had our team meetings. We talked about just going out there and compete. And because we didn't really compete Friday night, we just went out there and we just didn't stop the bleeding. When mistakes started happening, we just started rushing through everything. We weren't attacking in our bats. And then on defense, we just kept making mistake after mistake. And nobody didn't step up and be a leader, I guess. And so we just talked, and the next 2 days, our talk was just to go out there and compete and just play, because we obviously didn't really do that Friday night. So when we compete and when we play how we usually play, the results will just happen, and we got the last 2 wins to secure the series, so that was good.
Yeah. How happy were you with both of those home runs?
I don't think I was happy, because before the pitches before my home run, I was like rolling over foul balls, hitting something, and it was fouled balls. But then I finally, I guess because I made the adjustment while I was up to bat, was probably my favorite part of it, because I could care less about the home run. It was just more so me being able to make the adjustment while I'm in the at bat and not having to go talk to my hitting coach. And so just making that adjustment while I'm up to bat was my favorite part about my process. So
Definitely.
And then the result spoke for itself.
Absolutely. And it was 2 big wins for the team too.
Yes.
I mean, you know, big SEC series win.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, last week we were talking a little bit about how everybody's hitting, just not necessarily at the same time. You know, people are doing really, really well. There's a lot of home runs, a lot of, you know, people getting on base. And you were saying, man, we just need to put it all together.
Yeah.
You know, like we need to all be doing it at the same time. Like in the transition from this week to last week, do you feel like you guys are getting closer to putting it all together, or what's your thought on that?
I think yesterday was probably like the best day out of the weekend of us going 1 through 9. We were just attacking the first pitch, because when we were watching film, we were taking a lot of first pitch strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And so on Sunday, yesterday, we told each other our plan was just to see first pitch strike and just go for it, and not just to be hesitant. So yesterday was probably the best day of the weekend that we actually 1 through 9 came together and we're stringing along some hits and getting on base. So it was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really awesome. Shifting gears a little bit to talk about pitching. I mean, you guys have some fantastic pitchers. I mean, they posted something a couple days ago about you guys having the best earned run average in the entire country. It's like 1.26 for
yes.
the whole team, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I just think it's crazy because, like, obviously being a pitcher is hard. Like, I never pitched, but when we have camps, I'll do like BP where I'm just pitching to the players and they're just hitting. But it's scary. So I just commend the pitchers a lot because, like, they actually, I don't know, they're just so good, and them having that number for ERAs mostly because of how hard they work during practice during the week, their bullpens, their pitching sessions with our pitching coaches. It just shows that they are really locked in and they're focused on what they're doing during their bullpens, and that's why it shows during the games.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to see everything's kind of clicking for you guys. So
Yeah.
what's next? Where are you guys headed this weekend? What's going on?
We have home series against LSU this week.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
It is.
Speaking of LSU, kind of shifting gears to baseball. Baseball just hosted LSU this past weekend,
Yep.
which is always a big deal because LSU, they were the defending national champions. They're not looking as strong this year as they were last year. You know, they've only been 3-11 in SEC play and 22-14 overall, but it was still a really, really big win for the Vols this weekend for sure.
Yeah, and I know SEMO and Blake Burke. Actually, Blake Burke and SEMO literally are like battling to see who's gonna, at the end of this season, who's gonna be the home run leader in
That's
Tennessee
crazy.
baseball.
That's crazy.
Because, like, Blake Burke got the lead a couple
He's
weeks
got
ago,
the record.
and then now SEMO's up there with him.
Yeah,
So now they're just gonna go back and forth,
that's fantastic.
and that's kind of fun. Like, that's competitive. Like, they're gonna go at each other and say who's gonna hit, who's gonna win, and just. I like to compete with my teammates because, like, when we're in game, we like do some like little, I don't know how to explain it. We get points. It's a point system. So if you have a good process, you get this amount of points, and then if it was a hard hit, and you get this amount of points, and if your result was good, then it's like more points because all three, your process, your hit, and then the result was really good. So I like competing because it's like during games, you're on the same team, but you're still competing against your own teammates.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if SEMO and Blake Burke are going to do this, but if it was me and my teammate, I'd say, okay, we're going to see who's going to win at the end of the year, and just keep going at it.
That's so cool.
Plus, it just makes you better. It makes you want to compete harder and play harder, and then you're going to take your reps during the week more seriously because you're trying to beat somebody else on your own team.
Absolutely.
So that's fun.
Totally. And I think it's really, really cool because both of them are hitting so well. I think they're both batting over 400,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. I think they're both in the top 20 in the country in that regard. But it's not just them. It's not just the top of the lineup that's hitting. It's the bottom of the lineup, too. And so when you have all the guys hitting, I mean, that's when something really, really special starts to happen, for sure.
Yeah. And the best part of once the whole lineup is hitting, obviously, yeah, you have your not top hitters, but your base, like the top. I don't know how to explain it because it's like not your top hitters because the whole lineup is they're good.
Right.
But it's just your 1 through 5 hitters. So once like the bottom of the lineup starts hitting and they are able to roll it back up to the top of the lineup, like it just everything flows so good. That's which is I was talking about when our lineup starts to get more consistent and we come together with our at bats and pass the bat. We're going to be scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the Vols, their pitching is looking really, really solid too. I mean, their starting pitchers are averaging right around 5.5 innings apiece, and, you know, really only letting one run go through, which I think is really, really solid. So it's really, really good to see that they're looking really, really well-rounded right about now.
Yeah. And we still have a couple more series like softball and baseball, so we're not even in postseason yet, but obviously postseason is when it really matters. So if they're not even hot right now, we're not hot right now, it's okay. Like, we want to be hot once postseason starts.
Absolutely.
So a couple more weeks till that happens. It's
That's
so crazy.
Time is flying, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, they're on the road to Kentucky this week. They're going to get to play the Wildcats. So hopefully, they're coming home with a couple wins.
Yes. Series or sweep?
Please. So next week, we actually might have a guest coming in from softball and baseball. So looking forward to that. But until then, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next week.